and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Patreon-sponsored review time again, but fortunately, the next few reviews are going to be follow-ups to previous episodes as per the 10th anniversary celebration of the show. It's just they're going to be kinda weird follow-ups. I was going to be coy with this one for those who weren't aware of this comic's history, let you guess what it was I was following up, since it's not exactly obvious from the title or this cover what it is. But since there's not much I can say to lead into it, well, I can just tell it all with one sentence. That sentence being, holy crap, is that a motherfucking JoJo reference? Yes, last year a Patreon sponsor had me cover the first 4 episodes of the 2012 anime adaptation of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. I liked it fine, but I'm not really an anime guy with a few exceptions, so I don't really seek it out. But of course, I know a good chunk of my viewers are JoJo fans. They're also fans of pointing out when something is rugby and not football. Though, for the record, until that point, I don't think I'd ever actually seen rugby in anything. I'm lucky that I even recognized that it looked similar to football, and I've reviewed 2 NFL Super Pro issues. I also critiqued that Dio had survived his battle with Jonathan off-screen despite seeming to burn up, but it was actually revealed in a post-credit scene. Fair enough there, just didn't expect post-credit scenes to be a thing in this series. I do admit my fault here. It's like if I had left during the credits of a Marvel movie. It was foolish of me. But anyway, let's talk about Diesel, aka this is a ripoff of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. And no, I don't mean in a, well, this was inspired by it, or clearly they just had the same idea as it. No, it's a ripoff. But the weirdest thing about it is that it's a ripoff from 1997. Bear in mind that while anime and manga were gaining traction by this point in America, it wasn't really as mainstream as it is now, and JoJo wasn't even on the radar back then among any anime sites I knew. I mean, unless there was some sort of crossover with Inuyasha back then, I don't know. So what's the story behind this? Well, this is all secondhand information, so it's possible this story is false, but apparently the writer, Joe Welchens, got a hold of some fan-subbed copies of the JoJo OVA series from 1993. He loved it so much he wanted to share the ideas in it, but back then, Antarctic Press wasn't exactly a big name in comics, and wasn't going to land a deal to translate the manga, and dubs for anime were for stuff like Pokemon or Sailor Moon, not this. So he just decided, screw it, I'll just tell the story here in my comic. Because, you know, it's totally okay that you're stealing this if you just want to share JoJo with the world. And thus we have today's comic. So let's dig into Diesel number 1 and see how this plays out. I could have sworn a fan sent me a physical copy of this book, but sadly I couldn't find it, so we only have this digital one on hand. I also have to apologize because if people expected a side-by-side comparison with the JoJo arc this rips off, that won't happen either. I did try to learn some more stuff to get ready for this review, apparently dealing with a villain named Endul, but I don't have the episodes that cover it, nor that particular section of the manga. I did, however, have a fan-donated copy of the first part of Stardust Crusaders, which gave me some grounding here for the overall concepts that were being ripped off, so big thanks for that. The cover is less than impressive, a logo that's made of rusting metal that's so big it pushed the Antarctic Press logo down below it. And then this blue dude punching at the reader. Oh good, and here I was worried the cover might actually go a long way to give readers a better idea of what to expect inside, but that's okay, just a generic looking blue 90s muscle dude punching at nothing. Also, is it just me or does he look like one of those battle troll dolls? Anyway, we open on, surprisingly enough, a 2-page spread of a mansion. I don't think I've ever seen a comic's first 2 pages be a 2-page spread, so points for uniqueness. Although you lose all those points for what is essentially an establishing shot without any dialogue balloons in it. But hey, great integration of the photo of water in the fountain and the drawn artwork. Glad to know it wasn't just wasting time or anything. We soon see inside of the mansion as a man is eating dinner at a long table. 2 bodyguards standing near the doorway. However, they soon get knocked out as the blue figure from the cover punches his way through the doors. I said I'm selling Girl Scout cookies door to door! How many can I put you down for? The blue figure, however, fades into hiding behind this guy who just walks in and approaches the figure at the table, who glares back at him and does the hideously evil thing of lowering his very tiny wine glass. Seriously, it even looks tiny when he puts it up to his face. What, are you supposed to drink the wine like shots? Is he just kind of sipping on it? We flash back to 3 months ago outside the mansion, where we learn that the blonde guy at the table was named Mr. Botha. Man, I hate it when people call people Mr. with their first name. They should be calling him Mr. D's Nuts. He's talking with another guy named Mr. Evans, who says that his trip to the mansion was for nothing. At least the evening wasn't a total loss. This is an incredible house. I only wish I could have seen it in a 2-page spread. That would have made everything worthwhile. As you may have noticed, for some bizarre reason, Joe Welchins decided to have the word balloons in this flashback be transparent. The good news is that for most of it, it's fine. It's white text over a dark background, but in a few spots, it's slightly trickier to read, and it's still such a bizarre creative choice. It's not as bad as Marvel's complete lack of balloons in issue 3, but it's close to that level of dumb decisions. I love the pool, you know. I've always wanted one myself. What's the price for one of these, if you don't mind my asking? Mr. Evans, I know why you're here, and I'm not looking for a new pool cleaner. And so a bunch of wavy blue wind lines come out of nowhere, no doubt summoned by Botha, and slice Evans in half Darth Maul style. His bisected pieces fall into the pool. Oh geez, well now you do need a new pool cleaner. We cut to a lakeside house in Great Britain, where that guy from the present, named Thomas, starts walking up the dock to the house, thinking to himself how he hasn't seen the owner of the house in a while, but wants to surprise her. However, he's met by another guy at the top of the stairs with some kind of glowing electric blue dude floating over him. I sense you're a stand user, friend, so don't move a muscle and identify yourself. Do it telepathically so you don't move any mouth muscles. A stand user is lifted from JoJo. A stand is a spirit summoned up by the user's own life energy, kind of a representation of their innate fighting ability or psyche. When it appears, it does so standing next to or near their user, hence the name stand. Although I prefer the term invader of personal space myself. So yeah, the guy at the stairs demands to know who the guy is and prepares to use his stand to shock him, but May, the owner of the house, stops the two with her own stand, some kind of electric ninja. Damn it, Joseph, I told you to take it easy. That's Thomas you're attacking. Yeah, Joseph. You know, this is why you aren't mentioned as much as the other Joseph of the Joestar family. Thomas says it's okay and greets her dog, named Chewbacca. Given how JoJo tends to name people after singers and whatnot, I'm surprised this didn't name every person here after a Star Wars character. May is upset with Thomas because he's been away for a while without contacting her, but is otherwise happy to see him, bringing him inside to meet 3 other stand users who have come together. Alex Oliver, Thomas's childhood friend Azizi, and Jet Li. How's it going? Man, it's always weird to see an actor's early work. Why have they been brought together? Well, it's because, as May reveals, her father is dead. I've heard worse reasons for a party. Later that night, she goes down to the dock to talk to Thomas. I want to talk to you about Ryuo. Does your Ryuo ever feel, not so fresh? A caption helpfully informs us that Ryuo means Dragon King. And they couldn't just say Dragon King. I mean, if we don't just have random Japanese words in it, how are people gonna know this is a ripoff? Turns out May's dad was Mr. Evans from earlier, and she gathered them all here to try to take down the killer. Thomas wants to go it alone, but she knows he's too dangerous and powerful to try to do so without the others. The next morning, someone out in the woods seems to dig a hole. He then raises his hand up, which has claws, and stabs them right into his face, causing a massive gush of blood. When got your nose goes horribly wrong. Back at the house, the group gathers for breakfast minus Joseph, who's gone out on patrol. He steps into a puddle of blood, and the blood starts schlooping all on its own. At the house, Thomas hears something. Row! 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 My god! Now they're ripping off Gurren Lagann! They realize it's Chewbacca barking and they follow it, finding Joseph's body in a puddle of blood. They don't sense any stand users around, but fortunately, Joseph is alive. Are you alright, Joe? Yeah, fine. How can you be fine? You've lost a lot of blood. What? No, I was just taking a nap in some V8. What, this is based on a bizarre adventure, isn't it? No, the blood comes to life and forms into a point, proceeding to go in and slice Joseph's head off. Well, I don't think he's fine now, and I definitely think he's lost a lot of blood. Thomas realizes it's an enemy stand. They scatter and May steps on a twig, the stand going towards her and stabbing her through the stomach. She's still alive, but she quickly realizes that the stand locates someone through sound. Everybody, back to the house! Move away from the stand! It detects us through sound, so let me yell my instructions to you all! As they flee, the stand pursues, slicing up a bunch of trees until it finally reaches them and cuts off Alex's feet. Jet Li summons his own stand, which appears to be some kind of purple robot thing with grappling hook fingers, and uses it to swing over to Alex and carry him to safety. Azizi calls out the stand while summoning his own, which appears to be a mech suit that shoots fire out of its hand. Fortunately, this works as the blood approaches but gets fried. The enemy stand user feels the burn from the fire and laments that he'll have to be more careful. How careful can you really be when you're already stabbing yourself in the face? The group heads to a nearby car so they can take their injured to a hospital. Thomas saying he'll stay behind to try to deal with the stand user. Plus, let's face it, the car is a tiny Volkswagen Beetle convertible. It's not like there's a lot of room in there for 5 people. Thomas uses Chewbacca to try to track down the stand user. Unfortunately, he just ends up leading him to a family of porgs. He manages to locate the stand user, but said user has the power of bad text overlays without thought balloons. Yeah, it's less successful here as the text seems to fade into the background in a few spots. Thomas tries to attack from the air with his stand, but the enemy just brings the blood up to stab at them from there too. While Thomas and his stand try to get in closer, Chewbacca attacks. But the blood stand goes for the dog's neck. Chewie, no! Who will take care of Mala, Itchy, and Lumpy now? However, the distraction allows Thomas and his stand to get in close enough for a direct attack, the stand doing an "I am a man" punch to the stand user right in the face. Thomas wants to know who the hell this guy is and why he attacked, but before he says anything, the user is suddenly attacked from behind by another stand, this ninja lady with massive shoulder pads. And so our comic ends with Thomas exclaiming the name of the stand user. Chibot! No, again, you're getting your anime wrong. It's Chobits. The user of the ninja lady is on the top of a branch in the trees. Hello, Thomas. Sorry I can't explain, but if it's any consolation to you, you've passed the first test. You get a sticker with your A+. This comic sucks. Having not read the arc this comic is based on, I couldn't say for certain how much of it is taken word for word, but I can imagine a lot of it, frankly. It matches the imaginative style of JoJo's stands and the unique battle tactics therein. If we take the story on its own, though, it has a lot of problems, primarily because it explains nothing. Why did May's dad have to die? What are the stands? Why do some stands look humanoid with robots and whatnot, while others are more like sapient blood? Some of this stuff I know because I read some JoJo, but what's the excuse in this? Anyone who picked this thing up without knowing the JoJo connection would have been utterly confused. And while Joe Welchins might have thought he'd have some kind of ongoing series for this, the truth is only this one shot was printed, so that's a bit of a bummer for the audience if they were interested in this. There's also not much individual personalities in the book, just lots of people expositing interesting plot or very mild characterization. The artwork is mostly fine, though the bizarre way they incorporated text without bubbles or captions was just awful. What made those sections so special that they didn't use them? Oh, but of course, there is the most important facet of this thing. They ripped off JoJo's Bizarre Adventures to make it! It's not the worst book, but it's not good, and in the end, it's an inferior bootleg of a much, much better series. Next time, we continue the Patreon-sponsored reviews with a look at the final parts of the Terra arc from the original Teen Titans animated series. AKA when you have an official adaptation as opposed to just stealing something. Oh, yeah, sure. Any similarity is purely coincidental, guys. We believe ya.